Welcome to our immune system and hints and tips for boosting your immune system during our cold and flu kind of symptom area at the moment, which of course is our flu season really. And we're just going to wait a few seconds to make sure everyone's kind of logging on, get as many people allowed into the network as possible. We want to help you really at this time of year simply because you will notice everyone around you has a cold.
It's hard to tell whether Xandra has one.
We're finding it quite funny at the moment because I have also developed a slight cold this week.
It's really hard to tell.
Yeah. So if you do notice that I am the one who's coughing, it is because unfortunately I have also developed one.
It's just for this webinar. She did it especially for this.
But it means I can answer a lot of hints and tips as to what you do if you do develop a slight cold. And of course, the main difference is that even though I do have a slight cold, I'm not feeling unwell in myself. I feel absolutely fine. I just have a very, very slight tickly cough. Probably the most annoying thing you could do. I mean, to speak for the next half an hour.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of things that we brought in to kind of help me, and a lot of things that we would also give to our patients that would help them through this kind of period, because it is going to happen. You're surrounded with people who have coughs and colds at the moment, but also because it's just a slightly more run down time of year.
Yeah. Autumn is a time when everyone gets them, because autumn, we had summer and then we go into autumn and stress levels are a bit higher. It's getting cold. It's getting damp. We get a little bit more run down. Our food tends to go off a little bit at this time of year. And I think we both see that this is, it's a strong time about October when everyone starts to get sick. And there's lots of things you can do to prevent it. If you see other people are ill around you, just because someone else is ill around you, it doesn't mean you have to get sick. I think we both are very aware that when we get sick, it isn't because someone made us sick. It's because our bodies have got weaker because we've been either very stressed or we've been struggling with sleep, or with sometimes our eating's gone off a little bit too. All of those things together can also make us sick. I think we recognize that it's when we're run down that we get ill. And I think it's nice for people to take some personal responsibility for illness and realize the things you can do to boost your own health to stop you getting sick in the first place.
Also, sometimes sometimes you can't avoid it. I mean, we spend an awful lot of time together, and even though I have a cold, I can almost guarantee Jessica will get one. Simply because it's all about what's happening. Of course, at the moment, we've gone through a very stressful time. So we've just moved our clinic, done an awful lot of 18-hour days. I pretty much knew running myself down, but also then I moved house at the same time. Sometimes you have to push through them. Are you going to get a cold afterwards? Maybe. But also I did 10 times more for my health, making sure that if I did get a cold, it would be very mild. And that's exactly what happened. So actually we were very good with food, loads of nourishing soups. We did loads of things to try and keep us going as long as possible. And that's probably why actually I feel fine in myself, just a little bit tickly cough.
Yeah, I think the plaster dust, as you said, has probably not helped. There's been a lot of plaster dust in the building and she's been scrubbing floors.
Yeah.
So
that's what we did. Yeah. But it's all about what you do. So if you know you're going through a stressful period of time, why not do things to boost it? So we make sure we take a lot of vitamins. But also the second I noticed I was getting even slightly kind of turn the corner and getting up with a cold, the first thing I did was chuck a diffuser on. Jess always has a mix that she makes me do every single time I get anything that's like a cough that I put on 24/7. And the second bit on, I can breathe, everything's fine. And also, you just feel much better the next day.
And I think essential oils are something that people think is a kind of, a hippie thing to do, but essential oils are really purified forms of plant oils, and they can have really great benefits, especially because if you're struggling with a cough and struggling with something to do with breathing, when you're breathing something in that can help you, it's one of the best ways to get it there. And I think it's also really safe. So it's a great and gentle, safe aid that you can use in your house to stop other people getting ill, and also to help with a runny nose and to help with a cough. And sometimes, a lot of those oils have antiviral properties, they have antibacterial properties. So I believe that they stop you getting chest infections. There's some evidence to show that they do as well. So we use a mix that we like to put in a diffuser. A diffuser is like one of those plug-in things that has water in it as a reservoir. We fill ours to the top and then you add oils to that. And the oils that I like to add are lavender, because lavender is really safe, really gentle. Just be a little cautious of it in pregnancy, but otherwise it's very, very safe. And you add 12 drops of lavender oil, and then we add 6 drops of tea tree oil, which is also antiviral. That one's safe as well. 6 drops of eucalyptus oil. Eucalyptus is generally safe, but if you have pets, then we ask you to often take that down. Some pets react to eucalyptus. And also, if you've got babies under a year in the room, if you're where you are putting the diffuser, then take the eucalyptus out as well. But it's great for opening the airways and making you feel you can breathe better. And then camphor, which is something that used to make mothballs, but is quite powerful, a bit like menthol, but really great if you're all congested and blocked up. You just put 2 drops of that in. And we've used that diffuser all through this time of coughs and colds. We keep it on in the clinic at times as well, just to help people feel a bit clearer, to stop bugs that are flying around. And we find it's a really good pick-me-up. It's quite a nice smell as well. So diffusers are a great thing to use. They're much better than air fresheners and other things. You can use them for lots of different things and get one for about £30 online.
And you immediately feel you can breathe better. It really is incredibly important. But we've used one like Jess said for years, but also we have different mixes as well. So we even have ones that can make you feel a bit happier and brighter as well. So like orange mixes that do that. Anything with lemongrass in makes you feel
lovely,
good too. So they are useful, you can use all year round, but no, in our family, the second anyone gets any sort of illness, we put that on. And we find by doing it, our colds are shorter, the symptoms are less severe.
And if you've got a child who's got a cough, they're really great because you can put them in the room overnight where they're sleeping and you can find it reduces congestion. It's also great for adults and you can actually get a good night's sleep rather than coughing or struggling with your breathing. I think they can be fantastic for that. So a diffuser, I think, is one of your must-have in your first aid kits for the house. And lavender oil, these oils that we use can also be used in other ways, which we'll talk about in different videos. But lavender particularly is almost a medicine cabinet in a bottle. So they have a lot of uses.
We used to do it as kids, though. I remember as kids, I remember our parents getting us to put like the albus oil in a bowl and the old towel over the head. The diffuser just feels like the modern way of doing that much better now, where you don't have to kind of, sit in your little steam tent.
And there are lots of ways that can prevent infection as well as helping you treat it. But then as well as that, there are lots of other preventatives that you can do. And I think some of the most common ones that we use are obviously taking your multivitamin, because a multivitamin is a good idea. Vitamin B1, B6, B12, and magnesium, zinc, all of these minerals and vitamins, they all help your immune system and reduce your risk of getting sick. And if you do get sick, they make you less ill. So I think if you are worried about getting coughs and colds or you've got any other health problems, then taking a multivitamin, especially through this time of year, is a really good idea. And you do sort of get what you pay for with multivitamins. The cheap ones don't absorb as well and don't have as good levels of those vitamins. And then alongside that, you want to think about vitamin D. We've gone dark and we're about to go into the clock change, and vitamin D is incredibly important for protecting you from infection. And if you do get sick, vitamin D, again, will stop you being as likely to get severely ill from it. So you're less likely to get a chest infection if your vitamin D levels are good. We would say above 70, and you can get those checked by your doctor and see what your vitamin D levels actually are. And you want that number to be above 70. They say above 50, but above 70 is optimal. If you keep your vitamin D in that range, you're less likely to even die from COVID if we looked at things like that and the research behind it. Zinc is another really great thing to take if you do get sick. And I think increasing vitamin C and increasing zinc are two really good strategies for if you're getting ill, if you feel like you're coming down with something. Take more vitamin C, take more zinc.
So I'll ask a few questions now. We'll have them coming in. If you do have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll try and get through as many as we can. So Sarah asks, kids are full of coughs and colds. Is there anything we can do to relieve their symptoms?
So I think the diffuser is a really great one with kids, as we've talked about. And then, it depends what age the children are, but you can start multivitamins quite early. There are some really great, Cytoplan, the company we talked to before, do a nice little gummy bear that the kids can eat that's a vitamin. And they also do a vitamin C that's the same. So they can take both of those to help them take some vitamins as well. And there's some other companies do chewable zinc, which is really good as well. So they can have those vitamins safely and at child doses. Many companies do ranges like that. As well as that, we use homeopathy. That's where homeopathy for us is something that we find really helpful because it's safe and it's a controversial topic. A lot of people aren't so sure about it, but the worst they can say is it doesn't work. So you may as well try it. I find it's brilliant, and you can use that. There's some nice remedies for coughs and colds, and there's online pharmacies like Helios. You can buy kits from them, and you can look up what's sore throat, a cough, and you can give remedies for those. And they're a really great thing to do with kids because it's safe and it's gentle. So we find them brilliant and we've used them since we were small. So I think that's personal choice, but it's definitely not dangerous to do that. And why not try? Elderberry syrup is our other thing that I think for kids is a really great thing to use. Great. Yeah, so we on Adio have an elderberry syrup recipe which you can go and do, and we make that up when we go foraging. We've already done ours when it was about 4 weeks ago, maybe.
About a month ago.
I've lost track of time, but it's the really dark berries you see that are tiny in hedgerows, and they're quite. You can't really mistake them for anything else. It's quite a safe one to look for. Once you get used to it, look at some pictures online. You can find it. You can harvest it. It's usually around the edge of fields in hedgerows.
It's got big elder bushes, isn't it? The red branches,
red stems,
and then you get the little berries on.
Yeah,
and you get loads of them. And more importantly, it's just we mix them with. So we mix ours with the raw honey and the cloves.
and a bit of ginger.
Yeah.
And I think then it takes you less than an hour to make it. It's really easy to collect. You just take the berries off. The kids can do it, so it's really fun. And it's something we do every year. And then you can also freeze some of those batches so you can make it right through winter. And elderberry syrup tastes good, so the kids will drink it. And then also it's got a huge amount of research, probably more than echinacea, which most people know. Elderberry syrup is really safe. Again, it's really gentle. And there's a wealth of research showing that it shortens the period of illness if you do get sick. And you can use it for anything, fevers, flus, coughs, any of those. And I think you can take, usually for a small child, we'd say about a teaspoon a day, and an older child, a dessert spoon a day to prevent illness. And then if they do get sick, you can do it up to every 2 hours. But I think it's a fantastic immune aid that's very gentle and safe. And then I think you've got in children, you can choose a bit of honey and some water just to help them with sore throats and other things. You have to decide. I think painkillers you can decide on those, but if they have got fevers and they're uncomfortable, that's the time that maybe you would think about some ibuprofen if they need it. But we tend to use the homeopathic remedy belladonna. You can use whichever you prefer.
Those remedies are fantastic. I mean, I know I started with a little bit of temperature for a few hours, and immediately you said, belladonna, and that was it. It's gone. One dose, gone.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that. But I always think they work like magic. Almost.
Well, as I said, you've got nothing to lose by trying the homeopathy and seeing if that works for you, and it avoids you sometimes having to use some of the other medications which do have potential dangers and toxicity to them. So we do prefer to use them if we can. And there
are different types of honey as well, though, because I mean we have loads of different types of honey in our area, in the Manuka honeys, and they are fantastic, and they immediately soothe your throat, don't they? They're great.
Yeah, a lot of people swear by Manuka, and I think Manuka is a really great honey. It's got some antibacterial properties, some antiviral properties, and then even raw honey, that's unprocessed. There's some argument that that's a better type of honey than the honey that's been pasteurized. The raw honey seems to have more enzymes in and things that are beneficial to you.
So we've got another question that's come in now. So what foods should I eat to maintain a healthy immune system? Oh, I love this one. Yeah. My favorite is definitely chicken soup. Yeah, and I think I'm pretty much going to already say, Jess, tomorrow can I have chicken soup, please?
Yeah.
Because I actually made some bone broth yesterday, ready for this.
Yeah.
And the best idea is if you can. So I roast chicken first. I use those bones in the slow cooker with some water, a bit of cider vinegar, to make my bone broth, and then I make about 6 liters of that. And then I use some of it immediately to make my favorite soup, which is actually a sweet potato
miso soup, which is on our
red pepper soup. And I make a huge batch of that to put in the freezer, which I also had for lunch today. And then I also freeze sections of that bone broth soup, and we make a chicken Thai soup out of it. So that's got ginger and garlic and steamed vegetables.
And that's on our too.
Chicken and some rice noodles, because we don't eat gluten. So rice noodles in there. And it makes a really hearty soup, and of course, huge amounts of green Tabasco.
Yeah, because that kind of, sometimes there's an argument that, all those spices and things, they actually help clear your nose when it's all the flour. And I think a lot of people feel better. That's why people talk about that remedy of having a curry or other things. I think just clearing your sinuses with those spices can really be helpful.
So it's a little heating, but also the bone broth is very good for your digestion, which of course most of your immune system is in your digestion. So it's a very soothing soup, and it feels, because you've steamed everything, it's very gentle. It feels like your body's done almost no effort to digest it, because like,
your
you haven't
associates love
used
it.
your reserves to do it. Yeah, my chiropractors who work for me love it. Every time we have a meeting, we're all like, chicken soup. I'm like, I have more than one recipe. But yeah, I always make chicken soup. So yeah, it's a fantastic one to do. And you just, I don't know, second any of us are ill or anything, we're just like, that's it, I want that. It's very nourishing.
And I think, the chicken soups, and I think we're in that time of year when you're starting to feel a bit weakened, where we talk about this in autumn as a time when you should have all those nourishing soups and stews. It's what we traditionally used to eat when we follow seasonal eating. We start to go into those root vegetables, like the butternut squash, like the sweet potato, nourishing our bodies a bit better. And because we're now out of the time, you can feel it's a bit damp and a bit cold now. So you're out of your salad time. Salads are cold and damp themselves, and that nature isn't very good for our bodies. We want to go into those warming foods, those nourishing foods, big tray bakes of roasted veg with beetroot and other things on them. There's loads of recipes on Adio to help you with those. And that's what we head into at this time of year. And if you feel much better for it, you can also make your curries and other things. All those spices will help you. It'll eliminate some of that damp. And I think it'll make you feel a lot better. If you look at the other thing that you can do alongside that is to get rid of the damp. You can think about a sauna. Saunas are like the opposite. They're hot and dry versus damp and cold. So if you look at that, there's some logic to the fact that you can counteract that damp side of you, which we talk about in Chinese medicine as invading and not being very pleasant. That you can counteract that by using a sauna. And I think most of us will feel much, much better. There's a lot of research now showing that saunas can detox you and make you feel a lot better.
That actually goes along with one of the next questions, really, which is, can exercise help your immune system? I know we certainly do a sauna a week when we go to the gym. So I'm going to answer part of this question. So yes, exercise can help you before you get sick. So yes, it always helps to boost you. It helps you boost your immune system. It also helps lower your cortisol. So your immune system generally works better. But I would always say when you are ill, you have to be careful. You have to rest more because you don't want to use up your body's energy when it's fighting something to go and push too hard with exercise, because you will take your reserves. And it's possible either your cold will last longer or it'll hit you a bit harder. It's a bit of a fine line you can walk.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that.
So you can suppress it a little bit. So I would say yes before, not during.
Yeah, and I think that would be, Chinese medicine looks very much like our chi, our energy that we have. And I think when you're low and things are trying to invade you, then weakening your system so that it's harder to fight off the bug is not always smart. I think, we came from a family where it was normal, I think, to exercise when you got sick, and I don't think that's
never made it better.
I didn't know that we ever saw it made it better. If anything, it may have made people significantly worse. So, yeah, I think it is good to rest and to listen to it. You don't feel like doing exercise, so I think we should listen to our bodies. Then we have that instinct we should curl up on a sofa with a duvet, and if you've got the ability to do that, I think you should.
I also heard the idea that exercise makes you sweat it out. I'm like, no, you're going to sauna, you might sweat it out, and that's going to also help with the drying and get rid of the damp. But exercising, sweating it out generally means you're just wearing yourself out, and running yourself down,
just exhausting yourself further. So
no reason.
Do you have another question?
Yeah, I'll do another question. I was going to go for it. Okay, is it true that cleaning your home too much can harm your immune system? Oh, that's a great question.
So I would say that I think it very much depends. Again, if it's a form of exercise, then to some extent it might deplete you. But really, I think it's also to do with the chemicals and other things that you come across when you
what
clean.
You're cleaning your home with.
Yeah. So I mean, dust is one of the reasons that people often think that, because if you've got dust is a bit of an irritant, and even if you're not allergic to it, if you're disturbing large quantities of dust, I think a lot of us will notice if we do a lot of dusting or we've got a dusty room, we're clearing things, you get a bit of a sore throat afterwards. And I think that's just the assault on your system, really, of a lot of dust and particles which you're breathing in, and then your body's having to deal with anything that it finds in there and fight it off. So I'd say disturbing dust you have to be careful with and make sure you're in a good place when you do cleaning. But generally, it's more also to do with the other chemicals and the other things that you're doing in your home. I mean, we can cope with dust. Our bodies are clever, and unless you've got a weak chest, then I'd say most of us can then bring all that dust back up again and deal with it. But we should definitely think about the things that we're using to clean. Bleach is shown to increase your risk of lung disease. It's a thing that, although people talk about it making it clean, we've maybe gone a level too far when we get to things like bleach that are toxic. So if you can avoid using cleaners like that in your home, it's a good idea. It has I can't remember what the increased incidence of lung disease in people who use bleach regularly, but it definitely is significant.
What's the argument that you shouldn't technically grow up in a sterile environment? We're not really designed to grow up in an operating theatre. So, even kids and stuff, they're obsessed by cleaning everything that they put in their mouth. I mean, I remember sitting in the garden, making mud pies and eating them.
And I fed them to you. Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Made you
I
potions.
leave that out.
I made you potions and fed them to you. But yeah, I think it makes your immune system. It's the soil. I mean, there's an argument that our microbiome, that bacteria that lives in our gut, 80% of our immune system lives there too. We increase that diversity with the number of foods and bacteria we come across. So if we, for example, eat loads of soil and have lots of exposure to loads of different bacteria when we're younger, it strengthens our immune system overall. When you put children into a sterile environment and you're always cleaning everything with Dettol and cleaning every surface, for all the adverts that tell you they want 98% bacterial death, you don't want to do that. You want those bacteria. Many of them aren't harmful. Many of them are helpful to us. And obviously you need to be careful when preparing meats and other things, and clean your boards and other things in your knives. But hot water and soap work just as well. I really encourage people to let their children eat things off the floor, to put things in their mouths, to play outside in the dirt and eat the dirt. And they won't come to any harm, but what they will find is their immune system is generally stronger.
So another question now. Are there any signs of a weak immune system other than coughs and colds? Yes, definitely.
So I would say that your immune system shows you in a lot of ways that it's unhappy. Some of them are that you get illnesses, but other signs could be that it begins to attack you a little bit. Yeah. And we call that inflammation. So as I said, 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. Mm-hmm. And that means that if your gut gets unhappy, your immune system that sits on the other side of the gut wall can get unhappy too. And a little bit like when you've got flu, when that immune system's unhappy, it produces lots of chemicals which make you feel a bit achy and fluey. So inflammation can feel like you're achy, like you're tired, like you don't feel well. Those are milder symptoms of it. You can get joint pain. And then that can progress to, if your immune system gets really unhappy, it gets a bit confused, is always the way I describe it to patients, and it can start attacking you instead of the bugs it should be attacking. So then we have autoimmune diseases, which are another spectrum of diseases, and they range from things like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, those are bowel diseases, to eczema has an autoimmune component, endometriosis has an autoimmune component, thyroid disease has an autoimmune component. Rheumatoid arthritis. When we talk about any of these things, they're all about your body. Your immune system's got confused. I don't like the word overactive because I think it's just a bit broken and confused. And it, instead of actually doing its job and protecting you from the outside, it's actually turned inwards and started attacking areas of your body instead. And that is an inflammation driving that reaction as well.
It's like a cry for help, really, isn't it? It's like your body's giving you a massive cry for help and going, I'm broken.
Yes.
Please come and fix me. I'm going to tell you in a very loud voice.
Yeah. And is suppressing your immune system in that sense the right answer then? Sometimes, if those symptoms are really severe, then immunosuppressants may be necessary. But also, I think it's really important to work on fixing that immune system and on fixing your gut health and fixing your general health and making your body work better. And then your immune system will work for you instead of against you. So, yeah.
Sorry, another question here. So, does being cold give you a weak immune system?
Do you want to answer it? Do you want me to answer it?
I think you should go. You start off.
It's a tricky answer, that one. Again, it depends. If we go back, I think we should listen to tradition sometimes. Chinese medicine would definitely say it talks about pathogens in a very different way than we talk about them. Rather than being viruses and bacteria, because it was 3,000 years old, they used extreme cold, extreme damp, extreme heat, dryness, all of these as pathogens that invaded the body, is the way that they described it. And although it sounds crazy, I don't know if many of you experienced it. If you go out on a windy day when it's windy and cold, you get earache. And I definitely noticed that. I used to get a lot of ear infections when I was younger, and the wind and the cold always brought them on. And actually, when it's windy, you often notice pets go a little bit wild. That was the wind invading, the way they describe it. And you actually see children do the same thing. They'll run around a bit crazily in the wind. I think this argument of pathogens maybe has some validity. And I think, when we talk about getting cold and chilled like that, it's a stress on your body. So it does make some sense. Anything that creates a stress that raises your cortisol level then drops your immunity. So if you overstress your body with any temperature, then it will struggle and your immunity will drop a bit. And it depends how strong you are in the first place. Generally you can cope with that. But if you do it too regularly and you're in too weakened a state, then that's not a healthy thing to do.
It's very like the exercise argument. And that is, you're kind of using your vital source again. So, if you start depleting yourself by getting very cold, and there are ranges of cold, you can be a bit cold, but then you can get that kind of numb feet. You can almost feel it in your bones. You've gotten too cold. Think how much energy that's going to take your body to get you warm again. And it might just be so much energy that it drops your immune system.
Yeah. I mean, there is the other side, which we see a lot in the biohacking side now, where people are doing a lot with saunas and then going straight into the cold showers. I think we went through a phase of trying that. And maybe I can see there is benefit to it. The argument is that makes you hardier. And I think you see that in certain countries where they, go straight into the ice cold lakes and they go from the sauna to that. And probably those extremes of temperature, do they make you hardy? There seems to be some evidence it does. But I think, again, if you were in a weakened state, that would be a really bad idea. It would be a bad idea to be doing that. And we saw that. We saw that generally we felt good on it. But if we had a really vulnerable day and we feel a bit run down, and then you go and plunge yourself in a cold shower, it's quite likely to make you ill.
Yeah, we were a bit stressed for it, and then you had problems, didn't?
Yeah.
So here's another question then. So what's your opinion on chickenpox parties? Do they help build immune systems, or are they riskier than they seem? Oh, no, I think they're great.
Yeah.
But, and I love the idea that you get all the immunity out in one go.
Yeah.
I think, I'm sure when ever Jessica's found out that anyone in like her kids' years had chickenpox, she was like, oh my God, take the child. And like, see if we can mix them together, because you want them to have chickenpox on your terms sometimes.
And when they're young, you don't want them to get it when they're older.
It's much harsher. And
then natural immunity, as we all know, our immunity is pretty much lifelong. And I think if you can have chickenpox when you're young and you're fit and you're healthy, that's good. If you have it when you're older, not pleasant. I've seen patients where it's not nice, itching like that when you're older, and there are complications that occur. You get pneumonias, you can get other problems. So I think to some extent, you'll see that if your child's healthy and well, then sometimes having the exposure to those at an early age, I don't think you should be afraid of it. At some point, most parents have to go through it. It's a few days on a couch with a child, but for most of them, it's an illness that doesn't feel nice and they have it, but the risk from it is incredibly low. And I think it's debatable how we were about some of those infections long term. Really, I feel that way about many bugs. I think that the natural immunity is shown to be better in a lot of cases, and lifelong will protect you against lots of diseases.
It also means that they're sick on your terms, because sometimes it's nicer to know that you've put the child next to the child and you go, okay, they're probably going to get sick in the next week. Then you're going along blissfully and you go, oh no, they've got chickenpox. Sometimes it's better to kind of be prepared for it and know it's going to happen. But I know also children also react differently. I mean, your daughter had like 3 spots. Jack was covered in them, but they were still not that sick.
I think it might be boys versus girls sometimes, I think a little bit.
Well, they showed the spots, but they still weren't sick.
But those of them bounce back really quickly, and the majority of children will. They might have a bit of a fever, they'll have an itch, but yeah, I think to some extent that natural immunity phase is important, and it's definitely better to get it when you're young, definitely around that time. So we've got another question. I think that's asking a little bit like the cold water trend. That's asking about the cold showers and other things.
Well, we did this, didn't we? So we did it where we had to go out for a walk in the morning, came back, had a cold shower. I have to say, I think I did that for about 3 weeks in a row. And what I found was I was very stressed during this period and it didn't make me feel better.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think the cold showers, there probably is something to the cold shower trend. I do think it's good for you. It strengthens you. But from another chance, for a lot of people, including us, showering is like a really pleasurable, nice experience where you actually feel like when you're a bit busy and stressed, a shower makes you more relaxed. So if you miss out on that and you put yourself into a hardy cold shower, I don't know. I think it depends on where you are. So again, when you're feeling strong, when you're feeling well, there probably is benefit to doing it. And Ben Greenfield, online, who I think is quite interesting to listen to on this trend, he encourages you to do little bursts of cold shower, hot shower, cold shower, hot shower. It's quite a nice way to do it, so it's not too unpleasant. So you do that alternating temperature, and that is shown to have benefits to you, and it helps you de-stress and relax long term. I don't know, it's difficult, and I find it tricky.
It definitely boosts your metabolism though, because we fast in the morning, and I was doing that showering in the morning. And normally, because we don't eat normally until about 12 o'clock, you get hungry about 11. But doing that cold thing in the morning, it's like 9:30. I was like, I'm starving. Because it just ramped your metabolism up so hard doing that. I think because you got cold and warm again. So I can definitely see it would be great for your metabolism. But
if you try to lose weight, it's a good idea.
It can definitely work. But I think you have to make sure in yourself you are, I don't know, you're kind of strong enough. You're not going through a stressful period at that point. It's okay.
Because it's an added stress that you're putting in. And again, I think I might encourage the sauna first and then say, if you did the sauna, and if we're lucky enough to have access to a sauna, then doing the sauna cold that way is probably a good way to do it, where you're getting that heating up effect first. Again, it also comes to where we live. We live in a really cold, damp climate. Sometimes adding a bit more cold doesn't always make us feel better. So
that was a good lead into the next question.
Yeah.
So next question. Feeling very sluggish as the weather is changing. Anything you recommend to boost your energy? Oh, loads of things. So again, I'm going to go straight back into the sauna. I actually have a sauna bag at home. And when we go to the gym, we also use a sauna when we're there as well. The more saunas you can do, the better. I'm not sure what your weather was like today, but I think we were pretty much in some sort of strange hurricane.
Yeah.
Where it was pretty much absolutely throwing it down on and off all day today. It is windy. It is very rainy at the moment. And it does make you feel quite lethargic, basically. Yeah. You get that kind of, I don't want to go out, I want to read a book inside the house today.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure you can do as many things as you can. So yes, I'll definitely go with that. And also food, of course. Change your food.
I think it's a good time for the vitamins again. It's the vitamin time of year. It's the nourishing foods, the soups, the stews, the multivitamins. The sauna's a really great idea. Sometimes you might want to think whether your iron levels have dropped a little bit. Sometimes they have around this time of year. So we use some of the natural iron supplements like Spartone can sometimes pick your energy up a little bit. And I think it is just having a bit of an MOT around this time of year, realizing you're about to go into winter. How am I feeling? How stressed am I? Am I sleeping enough? Am I looking after myself? Am I trying to build some relaxation in? And I think if you start to work back on your lifestyle again, you'll find that those energy levels start to come up. We don't really recuperate after illness anymore, and we should. So when people get the coughs and colds this time of year, a lot of people then go straight back to work and they don't give themselves any time to rest and recuperate, and that makes you more prone to get ill again. So I think it's listening to your body a little bit. It is natural for us to follow the seasons and want to rest a bit more, and that's not such a bad thing. So go to bed an hour earlier and have a bit of extra sleep. Look after yourself. Don't burn the candle at both ends. Don't push your body too hard, and it'll adjust. When the clock changes come in, we start to also look at things like the light. So we use red light, and I think we find red light really useful. You can use the near infrared spectrum, which has got quite a lot of health benefits. And I think if you can afford to get a red light box, you're doing well. Otherwise, just even the bright light boxes that you can buy can help you with, the sad side in which your energy drops a bit, your mood drops a bit this time of year, because we do live in a very dark climate. We live, at this time, there's not enough vitamin D around. There's not enough light for us to feel better. And we live in semi-darkness through most of the day. So putting a bright light box, you can buy those pretty easily for about £20 to £30. And there's a wealth of evidence showing that if you put one of those on in the morning for about 30 minutes, which you can do whilst you're doing other things like doing your makeup, doing anything, it'll help bring your energy up and it'll make you feel better. And as an addition to that, you don't like it, but I like the alarm clock that wakes you up, that lights you up with light. You're not so keen on that one.
Only because for some reason it has this thing where it starts the cycle and I'm like, bing, awake. How is that gentle? I was a gentle waking up.
So it very slowly comes to
And
light.
I'm awake 40 minutes earlier than I was
mimics
supposed to be.
sunrise. And I find that useful because it means I don't wake up going, oh no, it's the beeping alarm clock, I'm shattered. It brings you out of sleep more gently, and it's supposed to work with your rhythm of sleep, but I'm not sure it does
Gently,
in
it's
your
like,
case.
ding. Wait.
I'm not sure it does in your case.
No, I like a nice gentle classic FM. That's
Yeah.
a lovely way of waking up.
So I think it's finding what works for you, but we like the light boxes. We like to add our vitamins, nourish our bodies a bit this time of year, and take a bit of extra vitamin C if you're feeling a bit run down. Look at your vitamin D levels, maybe a little bit of iron. And I think it's also about stress and building. Everything's got very crazy. I don't know if you've got kids like me, you find that they're all doing parties and run up to Christmas and a whole load of stuff that makes it quite stressful. So it's trying to find time for yourself to unwind in that as well, so that you don't get too run down, you don't get too exhausted.
So essentially it's all about really working on your immune system, and it's something that we really, really value at Adio, is always working on your immune system, and we have lots of hints and tips and guides to help you with that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us for this. I'll probably run a lot more webinars on this subject, especially as we go through these seasons. But thank you for joining us. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can below, and we'll see you again soon.